We have ourselves a nice little plugin here. How exactly could we turn this into a package to easily share it with other people? Let's talk about that. Hello everybody, ODAT Nerd here, back with part 5, the final part in this series on the plugin development of this Simple Notes plugin. And if you're unfamiliar with this plugin and the journey that we have taken from first ideas to the point we're at right now, check down in the link in the description of the video. That's going to link you back to video 1 in the series where we talk about this whole video and or this whole plugin and how it came about and how we've reached this particular point. Now, let's say at this point we're pretty happy with this. We can create a note. We have a syntax. We can create notes files. We've added our completions to be able to tag things easier. The actual plugin itself is visible in the left part of this Sublime Text window here is going to have all of the information for the plugin itself, and we're ready to share it with other people. And there are a couple of ways to do that, and one of those ways we are not going to discuss because it is a topic unto itself, and it's hard to describe it without actually doing it, and this isn't a plugin that needs to be distributed that way, and that is to add your package to package control. If you've come up with a good package and you think other users will benefit from it, that is definitely the way to go. And there's a sequence of events. And I plan on doing a video on that in the future, just not right now. But you can create a package that you can distribute around. Now, I will say that you should be using source control for everything, including your package, because you should be tracking these changes. I'm doing that behind the scenes. And as you can see with the stars in the gutter of this file that's currently stored in my user package, even my user package is stored in source control, in this particular case Git, so that I can synchronize my changes amongst all of my Sublime Text installations. But it's always a good idea to do that to track changes. And if your package was stored on Bitbucket or on GitHub, you can easily share your package with others by getting them to inject the URL of that package into their package control settings, and then it'll just automatically appear in the list. And again, we're not going to discuss that here. That's the topic of another video. But what we can do is just easily create a package file that we could share around with people. Now, this is something that you would probably do if you were sharing it around, say, within a company or in some situation where you're not ready to have your code be public yet, if that was the thing. This is certainly very valuable. And in some cases, being able to create your own Sublime package file is necessary. And this has actually come up more than once on the Sublime Text forum for people that want to create their own private package repository because their systems aren't allowed to talk to the internet in general. And you might want to distribute your package in that fashion. And this is actually a very straightforward thing to do. So let's discuss it for a little bit. Now I'm going to select Browse Packages from the command palette. It's also in the Preferences menu, as you can see. And if you are on a Mac instead of on Linux, as I am here, the Preferences is under Sublime Text in the top level menu because that's how macOS works. It persists in putting Windows on the wrong monitor. Now, this command always opens regardless of the platform you are on or where your Sublime has been installed, and the packages folder. And the packages folder, as its name suggests, is a place where packages live, and these are all folders that contain files. And as a matter of fact, if I was to go inside, here is the voluminous contents of my user package, but there's the notes settings that we created in the last video and the syntax we created in the first one, and the notes symbols preferences that we created in, I think, the third, and somewheres in this list is the actual tag to top plugin itself for the actual code. And if we go up a level, anything that's in here is considered to be a package. Now, if we go up one more level, there's a folder here called installed packages, and I'm going to go in there. And here we can see a list of Sublime-package files. Now, don't let the name fool you. I think even the package manager, or my file manager knows the deal. These are actually zip files. Yes, we can see it right there. I'm too busy looking at the icon to notice the obvious text. Sublime package files are zip files. They just have an extension of Sublime package so that Sublime can detect what it is that they are. And inside of one of these packages is the same items as you would find inside one of the folders here. And in order to share your package around with someone, there's a couple of ways to go. You could give them a zip file with the contents of a package and tell them to extract it into a folder with this name. Or the easier way is to give them a Sublime package file and get them to put it in this folder. Now, normally I presume you could or would, depending on your user preference, do something like this right here from a graphical tool. But I don't like doing that. I prefer working from the console. So I'm going to open a terminal, and I have set up an alias that takes me automatically to the packages directory because I do it all the time. Now this is the exact folder that we saw when we selected Preferences Browse Packages. We can see that right there. This is in my home directory config Sublime Text 3 packages, and this is config Sublime Text 3 packages. That location is going to be different if you're on Mac OS or Windows, naturally speaking. But it's always something that's contained in your home directory and is something that exists that is unique to you, which is why several users on the same computer, if they have the same different logins, can have their own customizations for Sublime. It's also the reason why uninstalling and reinstalling Sublime hardly ever fixes problems, because all of your settings are stored here in this folder that has nothing to do with the location that Sublime is installed in. Now, all that being said, this packages folder may exist inside of a folder specifically on Windows if you use the portable version. But that is nothing to worry about here. If you use that command, it will always take you to the right place. Now, I'm going to say that for our purposes, probably not a good idea to do something like I'm about to do here while Sublime is running. It probably works. It's definitely going to work for me because I am on Linux. On Windows, it's a bit more of a butt about file locking and may cause a problem. All else being equal, it's not generally a good idea to fiddle around with packages in the sense that we're doing here while Sublime is running, just to be safe. Now, here are the list of all of the packages that exist in an unpacked state, because you will note there are many more things here than were in that installed packages folder. And that's because Sublime allows you to install packages both ways, even both ways simultaneously. But that's a topic for the override audit video if you have not yet seen it. And literally creating a package is as simple as creating a folder here. Now let's say, because I've been calling these videos the Simple Notes plugin, I'm going to create this package and call it Simple Notes. Now that this folder exists, there it is right there. Third from the top, technically there's a new package in Sublime when we start it, but there isn't any content in there yet, so that's not particularly interesting. So what are the files in the user folder that are important to this notes function? Well, here's a bunch of them right here, and this is part of the reason why I kept all of these the way that I did here. Note symbols.tm preferences, notes.sublime settings, and notes.sublime syntax. So I'm going to move all of those files down into the simple notes package. And I'm also going to move the tag to top, which is the actual plugin, to simple notes. And there I'm going to call it notes.py instead of tag to top, just to keep with the naming convention. And I think that's all of the files that matter for this particular item. But we'll find out in a second, won't we? So I'm going to exit out of the terminal and restart Sublime. Now, immediately we can see there is a problem because this file, which was open before, knew what syntax it was using. And now that syntax is gone. It's no longer in packages user notes Sublime syntax. But that's no big deal. If we close it and reopen it, it picks up the syntax from the new location and everything is good. And the file that was open over here in the plugin in the left-hand pane is gone now. It doesn't exist, so it is poofedy, if you will. But we can use view package file, and let's say what did we call our simple thing? We called it notes.py in the simple notes package. Here it is under its new name. And just to verify over here, if I pick tag 2 and try to execute the command, it jumps to the top, which is what we want to have happen. Now, for completeness sake, we probably don't want this to be called tag to top. Maybe we do. We probably want to say simple notes tag to top because the name of the plugin is simple notes. And this is something that I would very highly recommend to you, even if you are creating your own packages. Always have some sort of prefix on the names of your commands, because command names aren't namespaced. So if I have a package or a plugin with a command named tag to top, and someone else in another plugin also has a command named tag to top, they'll both be loaded, no warning will be generated, and the file that was loaded last will be the one that quote unquote wins and becomes the command. And as long as the command is in your user package, that's okay because the user package is always loaded last, so your version will always be the one that wins. Now that we've promoted this out into its own package, that is no longer the case. So let's go ahead and save that with the new command name. Now, over here in this file, it may or may not still work. Okay, it still works now, but that's only because the existing command still exists, even though we renamed that one. So if I was to quit Sublime and restart it to put it into a fresh state, and we wait for all plugins to load, now the key no longer works because the command isn't there. So we should probably fix that as well. And that opened on the wrong window. Now, the way to fix that would be to change this command to simple notes tag to top, and now the key works as expected. Probably a person would want to put this key binding in their package, right? So I'm going to go ahead and delete this item out of here so it's no longer in that location. And I will switch back to here and create a new key map file. And I will paste it in. Now, This is the default Linux.sublime key map. So I will save it, and when it asks me where, not in my user folder, in the simple notes folder, and I'm going to call it default linux.sublime key map and save. And now I'm going to save as it and change this to OS X. So there's an OS X version of it, and I'm going to save as it one more time for Windows. And in Windows, we'll say maybe Control Alt T. And now, if I was to go back and look in the Simple Notes package, we can see I have 3 key maps here, so that when my package is distributed, there is a key binding for each of the 3 platforms. Now, I haven't done it here. Be very careful about the key bindings that you create, if any. In this case, I think it makes sense. Make absolutely for sure that the key bindings that you provide aren't in the list of default key bindings, and that's going to be all of the ones in the left side here. But you have to be careful about this because I'm on Linux right now, and so the defaults on the left are the Linux keys. But as we just saw, there are also defaults for all of the platforms. You can use view package file and view default Windows key map to see what keys exist on Windows, and similarly you can view package file and choose default OS X key map to pick that one and see for Mac OS what keys are here. Try to choose a key that is both not listed here and somewhat makes sense. Or alternatively, perhaps you don't even want to have your command have a key bound to it at all. This is also possible to not do that. So let's close that window. Here's another thing that we can do. We can say, oops, new commands file. And it's automatically created some stuff here. So this is actually a feature of the package dev package. So I'm going to change the package name to simple notes, like so. And that one's not going to do anything just yet. And that one's going to do something. Let's take this one out for the time being, and I'm going to save that, and I'm going to again save it in the simple notes package, and I'm going to call it simple notes.sublime commands. Often you'll see it called default.sublime commands because that's what it's called in the default package, and much like key maps, files with the same name combined together. But in the case of command files, you don't have to do that, and I like to name it after the plugin itself. And I'm going to hit enter. Now, as soon as I do that, there's an item for simple notes, which does not exist yet because we have not created that file. And there is a key bindings, which is automatically showing us stuff. The key bindings for the package are on the left and ours are on the right, and it's automatically picked up that file that I created. And similar to that, if we're using package dev, we can say new menu entry, new main menu file. Let's pick this one. I have to admit, this isn't something that I've used package dev for before, but it automatically creates an entry, and we're going to change from package name again to simple notes, like so, and hit save. This one, again, not in that package, in the simple notes package. This has to be named main.sublime menu. I'm going to hit save. And now, under package settings, there's automatically an entry called simple notes. And there's a key bindings that does that. And for package settings, simple notes, there is a settings, which again does not exist. So let's create that file. We just create an empty file, go like that, and save. And now we have to find my packages folder. Oh my goodness, that was probably not the best way to do that. Let's see if package dev has one. Package dev got us covered. And that is in simple notes. And we are going to call this simple notes.sublime settings. And now I should be able to say simple notes preferences like so, and the file opens, but there's no defaults, so that's not particularly interesting. I'm going to close without saving. We can close that file as well for the time being. And I'm going to say preferences, package settings, simple notes settings. And that one works now as well. Close without saving. Perhaps I'll come back here and add that one in as well, just to keep things neat and tidy. And now we have that preferences file. Maybe we want to throw something into it as a setting. What sort of setting do we need here? What could we come up with? Well, one thing you could do is create a setting for whether or not your default key bindings are active or not. That's always a good thing to do. But here's something that we left out of the previous video. When I do this, I automatically see a list of all of the tags. But remember we were working with those Python 2, Python 3 tags. They don't appear in this list. And we could create a completions file and add it to our package. They'll be added to this list, but they'll also be added a second time if they appear in the buffer. And as far as I know, short of manually loading every completions file, checking the scope, figuring out which completions there actually are, and filtering the list, there's no way to know what Sublime completions files Sublime is going to inject into this list. So there's no easy code path for us to just say, I know the tag1 appears in the buffer, but I'm not going to return it from my event listener because there's also a completion for it. But we do have all of the action in the world for what this event listener returns back. So we could simulate a completions file by allowing the user to have a setting that sets all of the settings. If that makes, or a setting that sets all of the tags that should be injected. So let's see if we can figure out how to pull that off. I'm going to choose preferences, package settings, simple notes, settings. And this file on the left is the one that's from the package, and the file on the right is from my user package. So I'll just go ahead and save that one. So now I have no custom settings for the package. But over here, this is what is going to be the default settings for this package. And what should the settings be? Let's call this custom tags. And it's going to be a list, and we'll say the list is a list of strings, and the custom tags are Python, Python 2, and Objective-C. We'll even add a little comment here. Tags to inject into the completions list in notes files and save it. Now, those are the ones that are going to be offered by default. We probably don't want to specify default. So let's go ahead and scoot that over here, and we'll just make this list empty. And we'll go ahead and add those settings are over here. We'll make them look a little nicer. So now we have defined a custom tag, or sorry, a custom setting that that has is where we'll get tags from, and here's what we personally have designed those tags to be. And I'm going to go ahead and copy that so I don't forget, and we can close that file. Now I'm going to come over here to the plugin, and the first thing I'm going to say is settings equals sublime.load settings, and the settings name is simple notes dot sublime settings. And what is this particular method? Very simply, it loads the named settings. And this is important. It should include the file name and extension, but no path. And why? Because as we just saw, there is more than one settings file with the same name. There's one that exists in the package, and there's one that exists in my user folder. When Sublime loads settings, it finds all of the settings with the same file name, merges them together into one settings object, and gives that setting back to you. That's why we have the setting defined with no value in the default and with the setting in our file, so we can provide a custom setting. But because that file exists in more than one place, it does not work to provide a file name. The important thing to note here is subsequent calls to load settings with the name return set here always returns the same object and doesn't load the settings file again. So once we call this sublime.loadSettings method, it's going to return us a settings object and then keep that in memory. And then every other time that method is called, instead of going and loading the file, it just instantly returns that same object. And if we make any changes to this settings, that's automatically reflected for every other person who calls the load settings. Now, here we're going to have to extract the value of the settings, and we can say get. And the name of the setting we want to get is the one we added. That's going to get the list of custom tags from the settings, from the preferences, as we can see here. It finds the setting, returns the value. If that setting doesn't exist, it returns the second parameter, which by default has the value of none. So we could do this, but that's the default it already has. We know this, we expect this to be a list of items, so let's do this. So that if the setting exists, it will be returned as a list. And if the setting doesn't exist, our code will get an empty list. Then we don't have to verify and do something different depending on whether or not the setting is there. We can just use the list as a list. And we'll call this custom tags. And just to see if it works, let's print custom tags in response to the autocomplete opening in one of our, oops, there we go. Put the cursor in a place where we can see it. Say right here, and then open the console. And when I hit the key, we can see those default tags being printed to the console. So we are correctly pulling them out. Now, here's the thing. Find tags returns a list of all of the unique tags. And we could just add our custom tags to that list when it's returned. But if we did that, then we would be in the same position that we were in when the completions file specified the same tags. The tags that, if any of those tags exist in the file, it'll appear in the list twice. So we would need to make sure that we only add items from the custom tags list to the list returned by find tags when they don't already exist in find tags. And we could do that via a loop. However, the set type already makes sure that you can't add duplicate items of the same type or of the same value. So that seems like a better way to go. And as a matter of fact, if we look up here, that's how we did it here. We made a set, we added all of the tags to the set, and if there was multiples, the set just discarded the rest. And then we returned a sorted version of that set converted into a list. So if I was to cut that line and just return tags, now we're returning a set of tags from here instead of a list of tags. Now that does mean in the place where we call find tags, which is there and there, we need to have extra code. This code in prompt tags expects to get a sorted list, and now it's getting a set. So we should sort the set that's returned and turn it into a list, which is what it used to be doing. And down here, we would need to do something similar, that. But for the time being, it's enough to say that if we had a list of tags that was equal to find tags in the view, this would return us a set. But remember that when this returns the tags, it returns them with that hashtag on the front of it, and that is not what we want in the list. And that's why here we're using a string slice in both places to throw that hash character away. Now we could say that in the settings file, you should specify the tag with the hash on it. But another thing we can do is conform the list of tags here to not have it. And in fact, that seems like a better way to go because we don't want them to be in the list anyway, and it's pulling them out of the file with that hashtag on them. We could actually try to do something with that at the call point, but for here, how would we actually do something with the items from find tags? If we said this tag 1 or tag in find tags, we would have a generator that returns all of the tags in that find tags list with that first leading hash removed. And if that was the case, if we called set on that again, we could turn that generator back into a set. And then we can say tags.update with custom tags. And now the tags set is going to be all of the tags from the file plus all of the tags from the settings file, but with all of the duplicates filtered out. And that means when we iterate over this, we don't want to iterate over find tags. We want to iterate over the tags set. But as we were doing before, we want to sort that list of tags as a list to make sure that they appear in the auto completions panel in a nice sorted order. That also means that because they're coming out with this already happening, that doesn't need to happen there, and it doesn't need to happen there. So, in the world of the purely theoretical, if we've done all of this correctly and the plugin still loads, over here, when I type a hash, we see a problem because the global name sort is not defined. And I'm not surprised because the name is actually sorted and not sort. But if we were to try it again, now all of the tags are in the list and Python 2 and Objective-C are both in the list. And that seems to be working the way that we want it to be working. So now I can type, even though it's not in here, I can Python 2 that up and obc it up in this particular line. And if I was to go to the preferences for simple notes, be unhappy that it went in the wrong monitor and that should actually have had a 3 in it. and I changed this to also include C, and then we close the file. Now I can say pi3 and hashtag C as well. So it's also picking all of the settings out of the buffer. And that was a particularly easy change to make. And now our work is, for now, more or less done. We have come up with the package, we have preferences, we have created a menu entry for ourselves in the preferences menu under package setting, and just like that, we have managed to do something. We probably want to create a Readme file in the root of the package that explains how this actually works. So that might be something that we want to do, so that people can actually read documentation for the package. And I'm going to go ahead and do that after the video is done, because nobody needs to see me type that. And also, we have um, our preferences set up here and our key bindings. And so we're in a pretty good place. Now, you would add this to source control. You should have had it in source control from the very beginning so you could track your changes and find when you have had problems. You can go back and see how it used to work or where you came from. That can be a valuable, invaluable debugging technique. And if your package was on the uh, the site's Bitbucket or GitHub, you could say preferences for package control. Does it appear in here? Well, let's do it in the menu. Package settings, package control. Oh, that's right. It's one of the older packages. Settings default. Let's look at, because I don't think I have anything set up here. There is a setting in here called repository. Somewhere under the rainbow. Did I miss it? Oh, sorry. It's right at the very top. I'm blind. This is a list of URLs that contain a package JSON file. It also works for the URL to a GitHub package. So if I said package control add repository, you can see down in the bottom of the window, GitHub or Bitbucket web URL or custom JSON repository URL. And if you pasted that in there, when you did install package and it gathers the list of packages, your package would appear in this list. So you could do that if you wanted to share the code publicly before it gets added to the package control site proper, which makes sure that it's visible to everybody, even if they don't do this. But in the interim, what you can also do is say package control create package file. That's this one here. And now it's going to ask me, these are the list of all of the packages that are currently in the packages folder. We want simple notes. So I'm going to pick it, and I want just the default. And here on my desktop, it has created a simple notes.sublime package file. And again, I am going to quit out of there. There we can see it right on my desktop. And if I went into here and went into that folder and did this, we can see there are the contents of our little package. Package control has automatically gathered them up into this file. And how would you use this file? You would go to that installed packages folder where these packages exist, and I'm going to move the file from my desktop to here. This is definitely something that you should be doing while Sublime is either not running or that package is in the list of ignored packages, because the file will be locked on Windows. But like I said, while you're fiddling with packages, unless you really know what you're doing, you should make sure Sublime isn't running. Just to verify that we have done this correctly, I'm going to take this simple notes folder, and remember, that's the same stuff we were just looking at. That's the contents of our package. I'm going to move that Simple Notes folder to my home directory completely out of this packages folder, like so. Now it no longer is there. And when I open Sublime Text, the loaded plugin is no longer there. But the syntax still works. Remember, that didn't work last time. The syntax is still here. And I can still inject tags. So it's still doing what we want. And whoops, if I did override audit package report and we were to look for simple notes, we can see right there it is in the installed packages list. So we have successfully created a package file and deployed it. And that is going to do it for this video and for this series on the Simple Notes plugin. All 5 of the videos in this series have been rather lengthy, long, live recorded, live streamed, posted with no editing whatsoever videos. And I'm not really I don't want to keep doing that because the videos are quite long that way. I wanted to do them this way to get started, just to let everybody know that if you're new to Sublime development, you're going to have pitfalls along the way, and I've said this before in other videos. And don't be discouraged by that because in the world of the theoretical, I know what I'm talking about, and you just saw me use the function sort instead of sorted while I was typing that code in. And if I had been recording this and then editing it, that part wouldn't have made it in, and you never would have known that that happened. But I think it's important to know that we're all fallible, we're all learning, and we're all here to help each other. So I'd like to thank you for watching this video and for watching all of the videos, if you have watched them up to now. And where do we go from here? If you have ideas for other small plugins that you would like to, that you've always wondered how they worked or how to create one like that, let me know. If you have questions on how to write plugins in Sublime or other things of that nature, let me know. Any questions, hints, tips, topics you would like me to cover here, both on uh, package development and to some degree even on regular Sublime Text day-to-day usage, I'm here for you. You can leave me a message in the comment section below. You can send me an email at odatnerd@gmail.com or hit me on Twitter at odatnerd. Most places where there's social media, you're going to see a face that looks just like this guy. That's me using my long-winded style to help people where appropriate. And of course, you can always visit odatnerd.net for other communications vectors. Thumbs up the video if you found this whole series helpful or informative in seeing how a plugin and a package relate and how you start with an idea and end up with a package you could conceivably distribute to other people to share your programming work. And subscribe to the channel if you want to see more of these videos as I create them and they become available. And remember, if you really love Sublime Text development and you're a self-proclaimed fanatic such as myself, you can also not only subscribe but use the bell icon so that YouTube lets you know when videos are actually posted. But that is all I have for this video series. Thanks again for watching, and I'm really sorry for the very, very corny catchphrase, have a sublime day, but have one anyway.